All right, well, back for episode 5, 2 stale crackers.
Yep.
Yep.
Coming in on December 16th.
Yeah, we got the old toner mic going.
Toner mic again.
Got to make sure we got to put those plugs in.
Yep. Gonna get that sponsorship one of these days.
One of these days. Gonna do a little different today because we're gonna have the of course, we're here in Missouri, and the Chiefs are playing Thursday night football, so that's on in the background. We got the volume down, of course, but if something exciting happens, we might get a little off track for a second, but we'll try to stay on to it.
On track, huh?
Well, as on track as we usually are.
Yeah. This is a little bit here, a little bit there. Huh?
Yeah. Well, today we were going to talk a little bit about,
I don't know. We didn't really settle on anything. Yeonmi Park.
Yeonmi Park.
Yep. She's a woman from North Korea who escaped North Korea when she was a teenager and then was basically in slavery in China for another 2 years before she was able to get to South Korea and actually get somewhat of an education. Because that was the other thing, too, she was talking about. The education in North Korea is strictly around knowing what goes on in North Korea. And she also brought up the fact that they're, since the family lineage is like father-son, she says they basically copy the story of the Bible, like Jesus and God and stuff, but it's just replaced with the rulers of North Korea, she said. And so she went through elementary, middle school, and high school all in 1 year in South Korea, got a GED basically, and then came over to America to go to Columbia University. And she's just a really interesting, honestly, strong person. Like, I couldn't believe the strength this woman has. Like, it was just amazing, the story of not only living in North Korea and seeing the struggles that the people go through every day, but just getting out of that and then ending up in slavery, basically, in China for 2 years.
Yeah, she was sex slave, right?
Yeah, basically, sold into sex slavery in China for 2 years until the guy that had her apparently gambled away all his money, so he let her go. And then she had to walk through some desert in Mongolia to get to, I can't remember where she got to, but it eventually led her to South Korea, where she got an education and was able to come. And she brought up like books that she was able to start reading, and she was a really big fan of George Orwell, like Animal Farm and 1984 specifically, and how, all those ideas were new to her then. And she's like, some of this stuff is very similar to what I was experiencing in North Korea, to where, the people, she says basically all they do is they're starving. Every person there is starving, and their whole thing is trying to find food and be able to survive. And so when that's all they're worried about, they don't really worry about anything else besides how do they find food for themselves and their family, and the death that you see every day in the streets and at the train stations, and just the really just craziness that is North Korea, and how people are basically cut off from the rest of the world.
Right.
But then when she came to Columbia and she started getting a college education, and how people were kind of telling her that because of that she's a woman and she's Asian, I guess, that she was still being oppressed in this country because of those certain features, which she was like, no, this is... If people are talking about oppression, then they're not oppressed, And
right.
In North Korea, nobody talks about it, because if you even mention it, they take you to either a prison camp, a labor camp, or concentration camp. She said all three of them. They have all three of those type of camps there, and that's where you end up. And then your family
I was going to say your family ends
for
up too.
The next 3 to 8 generations, she said, pays the price that if somebody commits a crime in the eyes of the North Korean regime, and how they basically just wipe out whole groups of families. And just, it was really amazing, the story she told, and the strength she has and she's really outspoken about what goes on there, and she really wants to shine a light on it, because it really, people know about North Korea, but
right.
It's not really talked about that much anymore. And her thing was that they're backed by China, so that's why people kind of don't talk about it as much, because of...
Right.
Yeah.
Because China kind of takes care of them.
Yeah.
In a sense, yeah. Well, yeah, we wanted to talk a bit about her because of basically oppression
Yeah.
and kind of what it means. You know, obviously North Korea is very different from the United States when it comes to things like that. Like you said, like in North Korea, you know, pretty much all the food supplies and things like that go to the regime.
Yeah.
And the people around the regime, you know, the armies and whatever.
Yep.
And then there's very little left for the actual people of North Korea.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing she brought up was the state-run farms that 90% of the food they make in the year goes to the regime and the families that are well connected to that, and then only 10% is supposed to be left for the rest of the population. I don't know exactly what their population is, but it's definitely
it's like
people.
25 million.
Yeah.
It's somewhere around 25 million. I think the last time that I looked it up, and that is actually just a estimated number because
they don't
we don't really have access to
no. And you know, according to their leader, they were the only country that didn't have any COVID issues,
right?
Which is just insane. Yeah.
Which is take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and you were saying too that, I mean, there was one guy even that he killed a cow to try to feed his family.
Yeah,
and then he got murdered.
Yeah, because he killed the state.
Because apparently that cow belonged to the state.
Yep.
Yeah, which is, I mean, just crazy.
Yeah. And it's just how they, I don't know. And their whole, she's like, when they started with the government they have now, it all started on the idea, like the socialist ideas that, we're going to be in it together and we're all going to work together. And then it quickly diverged into single or, you know, very small amount of people and families had the power and were able to decide then who gets what and who doesn't get anything. And
right.
Yeah, just a really amazing story she has. Yeah. And the fact that she's still alive and that didn't wipe her out, because multiple times, like not even only living in North Korea, but then having to go to China and go through that and then walk across the desert to get out of China to try to get to South Korea. It's just like, God, I would have died freaking 10 times during that. Like, it was just amazing the strength she has. Right. Yeah.
Especially for just physically a little person.
Yeah. Her stature is not very, very big, but her character and her strength is
right. And she's got a book out.
Huge, yeah.
In Order to Live.
Yep,
is that what it's called?
That's what it was. Yeah, In Order to Live. So
In Order to Live. So check that out if you guys are interested in you know.
And she was on. I listened to her on Rogan, Joe Rogan, which and throughout the podcast he kept like having these heavy sighs, and I was like doing it too because like she would say these things, and it was like, holy shit, God, I did not. You don't realize how bad something is until somebody that comes from it tells you all the gruesome details of it. And she was also on a podcast with Jordan Peterson too, which I haven't listened to that one yet, but I'm gonna try to, because she's just got a great story, honestly, and like I said, tremendous strength in her. And but when she came to America, and the whole oppression idea got brought up to her, she just didn't agree with it right away, because obviously she came from something that was far more oppressive.
Real oppressive compared to what goes on here, which is kind of why we wanted to bring her story up. Is I suppose it's I guess oppression is different, of course, here than it is over there.
Yeah.
But I mean, how what actually is oppression here?
Yeah, true.
And that kind of brings up that question of the level of oppression, I guess.
Yeah, and that it's more. I would say it's more the narrative of oppression.
Sure.
Now, granted, there have been people that have been oppressed, of course.
Of course.
But to look at it now and see that many different types of people, whether skin color or gender or whatever, have a pretty a good amount of opportunities in this country to try to make something of their life, and just that alone tells me that there's not the levels of oppression that a lot of people think there are. And people bring up that African American men specifically make up a large number of the jail population, and that's a fair point. And that could that's tied to all kinds of different things. A lot is the war on drugs and, these exaggerated sentences that people get for minor drug crimes, spending half their lives in jail for minor, you consider minor offenses. And
right.
So I get that argument on it. And was that used in the past to hold certain groups down? I would say so.
I would agree with that. Yeah,
but
I think it's I think it's getting better in a sense.
Yeah.
Just it doesn't seem like it seems like now, especially with social media outlets and things like that, people are able to plead their case better.
Yes.
And more people are willing to listen. Mm-hmm. And I think that helps kind of keep those amounts of sentencing down.
Yeah.
Compared to what it was in the 80s or and all that.
Yeah. And the whole progress in that aspect of lightening some of those sentences and not putting people away for extended periods of time, because I've been watching some different things like YouTube videos on jail and stuff and 60 days in, and man, prison is no freaking joke. Like, it really is survival of the fittest, and it's Darwin's law at work. You see it, to where the strongest people in there run it, and if you have a problem, well, you better be ready to fight for it, because that's just how it goes in there. And it's really amazing to think about some of the low-level offenders that end up in that situation, and then how their lives are dramatically changed by that, and how it changes them to be a hardened prisoner in a sense, because that's how you have to survive. And it's people that, some of them
don't necessarily need to be there.
Yeah.
And
yep.
So I mean, there is definitely that side of oppression.
Yeah, but I just found this, because I've heard this too, that the rate of imprisonment for African American, I believe it's men, fell by a third from 2006 to 2018. So that's
which is a movement in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so.
And you hear these stories, especially of those low drug crimes.
Yeah.
People getting out, or people getting very reduced sentences and are able to get out much sooner than what was originally thrown at them.
Yeah.
And so that's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's
moving in the right direction, like you said. That's it.
Yeah. Moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not going to be a thing that's going to be completely fixed overnight or anything.
No. Yeah. But people that talk about like abolishing prisons that just seems.
That's not the right idea. Yeah, that's not the right way either.
Because obviously, some people that are in prison deserve to be there.
Absolutely deserve to be there. Yeah.
Very, manipulative and take just they turn into the evil side of them, and that's how they live their life. They want to destroy whatever they can. And so obviously people like that deserve to be there. But yeah, the low-level offenders, maybe not so much, and
especially the non-violent drug crimes.
Yeah, that's the one. The non-violent offenders.
Right.
Yeah. That don't need to be there, and
But so to bring it back to this idea of oppression. Obviously we agree that there are people that have been oppressed in the past. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like now, there are still people that claim they're being oppressed, when really it's. I feel like a lot of it is them. Well, a lot of people that claim to be oppressed, I think, use it as an excuse because it's easy.
Yeah,
it's easier than actually working to
actually taking accountability for yourself. Yeah,
that's where I was going with that.
People, and I'm not gonna. People always bring up like victim shaming and stuff, but I think a lot of people like to play the victim sometimes, because then you get sympathy for that. And granted, there have been victims of racial crimes and stuff like that, obviously, but
right.
It's just that seems to
that's
be,
been going on forever. That goes on forever, and it's not that it's a good thing, but that's just a fact of the matter.
Yeah, and people talk about tearing down America because of the oppression and the racism in the past, and I just don't understand why people think that that's a good answer instead of trying to just adapt the system in a sense that we have to better fit the current needs. Because if you look throughout history, what other civilization country has given so much to the individuals? Granted, not all individuals had that freedom in the beginning, but the fact that our groundwork is based on the individual, I think that's tremendous. And
Right.
that people,
And especially listening to the Korean woman's
Yeonmi
story.
Park, yeah.
Yeonmi,
I believe is how you say.
Yeonmi Park.
Yeah.
Yeonmi Park.
I guess I could spell it for everyone. So
Yeah.
it is Yeonmi, and then Park is just Park.
Sure.
So,
And especially listen to her story. I mean, she literally talks about if you speak oppression
Yeah.
or speak against
yeah.
the North Korean government, I mean, you could very well die, and
Yep.
your family could very well die.
Yep. Yeah.
So here we can speak about oppression with no repercussions like
Yeah.
that at all. You know,
Yep.
I mean, that's not
Yeah.
that doesn't even go through people's minds.
yeah. We don't.
And so I mean, you gotta look at that as you gotta look at that for what that is. You know, that's something that we take for granted. I think.
Yeah.
In
and,
in other places in the world, you can't even
yeah.
talk
Same
about
with
oppression.
Soviet Russia and stuff, and Maoist
Sure.
China. Same ideas, and especially in Russia. When I read the Gulag Archipelago, I believe, people talked about being so nervous of their neighbors being informants for the state that nobody, you never said anything bad about it, because then next day they come, they take you, and you go up to the prison camps.
and you're gone.
Yeah, in Siberia. And honestly, that's another really good book that really Jordan Peterson talks about that. That was one of the things that brought down the Soviet Union, because they put up this whole banner that, their socialism is working, and we have all this great society, and really, who knows how many people died in that.
Right.
They estimated
I mean,
50 million,
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, more people were. I mean, the reason it was quote working is
Yeah.
because nobody was saying
Yeah.
anything bad about it.
Yep.
So
Yeah. And it's just amazing that, still people talk about oppression in this country, and I just don't think like you said, they don't realize how good we have it in a sense that the individual can still have an opinion and not be worried that the government's going to come in and take you and, you're gone. And
take your family
Yep,
and all
that's-
that stuff. I mean, that's
it for you then, you
Yep.
know. And so that's another book I would
There goes your
suggest to read.
bloodline.
Yeah. That was a really interesting book to read about that, because, that guy, oh my God, I'm going to forget his name now. Solzhenitsyn, that's his last name. Talked about the idea of good and evil. The line runs down all of us. And when you have more people leaning towards the evil in a sense, and how destructive that can be to a society, and how it just tears it apart basically from the inside, and how people want to keep their status in those places, and so they'll turn on their own mother to keep their status and not be considered an enemy of the state. So
right.
and that's, I think, what we do have to fight for in America right now, because again people want to tear down what we have, and I just don't think that's the right step to take.
I mean, there's definitely there are definitely problems in this country.
Yes.
I don't think either of us would
No.
say that this is I mean, even people going around saying United States best country in the world.
Yeah.
I like, even that is, I think, a kind of a not necessarily the truth.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we have it pretty good compared to a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's up to us collectively, not
yeah.
not like you or me. That'd be
Yeah.
ridiculous. But us collectively,
yeah.
to take what we have and make it better.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of the whole
Kind
idea.
of this idea, individually we need to work towards a better collective, but collectively we also need to give room to the individual, I think,
Right.
to be an individual, and to take accountability for themselves and work on who they are, and just try to be the best person they can be in their own lives, and I think that's how it kind of spreads through that family, and then the community, and then maybe even the nation, and maybe even the world someday. But it takes us all, I think, working on ourselves, and being able to answer those tough questions about ourselves, or at least look at them, and
Right.
figure out what's causing us issues in our life. But what you brought that up before made me think of this quote: "That eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." And I think that's really the best way to put it: is that we must always be vigilant in our liberty. We must always know that there's areas that could be worked on and need to be worked on. And as long as we keep that idea in mind, then I think we can really come out of this. I don't even know what you'd call it, like a funk or something. Just this state now of America where, yet again, you're on one side or the other, and there's no common ground anymore. To where back in the day, especially like 9/11, there was the idea that we all were Americans and we all were in it together. And now it's just so divided and just so fractured. And I don't know if we can come back from it, honestly. I don't know what. There's no easy answer to it, honestly.
No.
But yeah, just what you said before made me think of that. Is that we must be vigilant to uphold the liberty of this country and the freedom that we all enjoy, because of the past, the people in the past that were willing to fight for it and stand up for it in the times of trials. So, and we don't have a great war to fight. But I guess we have a culture war that we're fighting right now, and that's again
different battle altogether.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know people listening might be like, oh, what do these guys know oppression wise and stuff like that?
Yep.
I mean, just a couple stale crackers, talking.
To be fair, I'm a little bit Native
online.
American, so I'll throw that in there a little bit. But I'm not,
Right.
I don't look Native American. I feel like,
Right.
Definitely.
I mean, I get darker than you do.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But but most people look at us as just two white guys, and why, they've never been through any oppression, and we have so-called privilege. That's another thing we were talking about, is this privilege idea, and that's just, I don't know. I get the idea of it, but I just think. Personally, growing up, I don't remember coming from any privilege. I remember both of my parents working, and I would say we were like lower middle class.
Right.
They owned a home and stuff, but they worked. Both of them worked. We didn't have more than we needed.
Right.
And we struggled a lot.
Right.
And the idea of I see the idea of privilege like on judgment and stuff. So yeah, I get that I was not necessarily judged as certain
Right.
people are.
We weren't.
But
put through something like that because which I mean I don't really even know how to really say anything about that because I've never experienced it.
So I agree
I
with
remember,
that line of the privilege, but
right.
to say that we inherently had easier lives because of the color of our skins, I think is just a bad. It's just a bad argument.
I think it's a lazy. I think it's a lazy argument to be honest. I mean, I remember there were times. Growing up, we were on the my family. We were on the lunch program thing where our lunches were like reduced price lunch deal.
Yep.
But I remember there were a few times where there was nothing in our account. My school, luckily they were pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty nice little high school, but I got when the lunch didn't go through, they'd hook me up with a peanut butter sandwich and a carton of milk.
Yeah. So at least you had something.
So I had something to eat, but that was pretty. I would say as a kid, that was pretty embarrassing for sure.
I would say there's no privilege in that, honestly.
That's.
And you even said your dad worked like 2 or 3 jobs, right?
Oh yeah, when I was born, he was working a few different jobs and.
When you talk about that, I was like, man, what privilege are you guys talking about? Because
I remember he would tell stories about how he was changing uniforms in his car, while he was driving to the other job, because he didn't want to be late.
Yeah.
Things like that, and that's crazy.
Just to support his family, and give you guys what you guys needed,
right? Luckily he found a
good job,
a pretty good job by the time. I guess I was maybe around 10 or 12. And he's actually been at that job since then. He's still there, so good for him. He's like the longest lasting employee at that job, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
Or one of them, at least.
Yeah. But, people talk about bootstraps. Like, that's a man that pulled himself up by his bootstraps to
right.
to do what he needed to do for his family,
Right.
And I would say my parents were of a similar vein. You know, my dad was a carpenter, or he still is, you know, contractor, and yeah, he'd work 10, 12-hour days, you know, 6 days a week, and you know, just did it begrudgingly, and you know, but he knew that's what was expected of him, to take care of the family. So, and same with my mom too, because they had divorced when I was in second grade. So after that, it was separated, but still, like they both worked hard to provide a life for me that was, you know, that was as best as that they could, you know, and it was a good life, you know, and they, you know, and I appreciate that about my upbringing, because I think that's kind of developed my work ethic, and you know,
Right.
like yet again, it was the start of kind of the responsibility for my own life, and now that I have a child, like I am responsible for her, so, and I want to do everything I can to provide for her, so, but yeah, it's just a good working class family that I think we both came from, and I don't, you know, I don't see a lot of privilege in that. But yet again, when it comes to judgment, I could see where the privilege thing.
Well, yeah, and you know, I guess to me the privilege in that would be that we got to do that.
Yeah.
You know, we get to, our parents got to be able to prove that they were able to do that. You know,
Yeah.
they were able to prove to themselves and to, you know, whoever else was
Yeah.
even giving a shit that
Yeah.
that they were able to do something like that, and
Yep.
it's you know, I don't know if that's not privilege that has to do with any color or anything. It's just
No. Yeah.
it's just kind of the privilege of being alive and being around, being here in this country.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep. Yeah. And that you know, that's
they were free to do that, to do the things that they wanted.
to build a life as they saw fit for themselves, you know.
Right.
And, you know, they were able to buy houses and stuff and have a little piece of property for
Right.
themselves, you know.
Which is
and,
crazy because I can't see myself buying a house right
yeah,
now, but
yeah. I'm
with
thinking
the
about
with the
that
way
too.
that the inflation and all
Yeah.
that stuff is, I mean, now it's really hard for somebody even our age to buy a house,
Yep.
unless you were really, really committed to doing it when we were younger. Even.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny too. I was thinking, now that we were just talking about our upbringings a little, I was thinking about my mom during that time, during the summertime. She was, I mean, she had some part-time gigs here and there
Yeah.
for a while, but then in the summertime, she would actually be off of work because we were all at home. So school wasn't watching us, so
Yeah.
somebody had to be at home.
Yeah.
And she ended up doing a little daycare for the neighborhood, and so all the other parents could go to work.
Go to
and
work still. Yeah.
I remember during the summertime there'd be like 30 of us little bastards running around that she was taking care of.
Yeah.
Totally illegal now. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think one parent's supposed to be able to take
To
care of
handle, yeah.
30 kids, but
Yeah.
that's kind of. It might not have been 30. That might be an exaggeration, but it was a.
Probably decent.
It was like a
amount of kids,
neighborhood worth of kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, like that idea, you know, you have that many kids, but the kids also, the older kids kind of are supposed to watch out for the young. Now, it's not their responsibility, but when you have that many,
Right.
like,
Well,
like
that's
the hierarchy
that's
of the kids.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
kind of how we grew up. you
Yeah,
know.
the big kids will take care of the little kids.
Yeah, because
and keep them
I
out
think
of
I was.
trouble, and
I think me and one of my neighbors, we were in the same grade, and her and I were kind of the
the pseudo,
big
yeah,
brother sister to all these other kids that
Yeah.
were running around.
and that's the kind of the beauty of growing up in the '90s, right there. You know,
I think so. Yeah.
times were definitely different, that's for sure. But you know, you look back in that time, and man, I love like just the fact that was when I was able to grow up, and you know, we talk about making progress in the country, and like, now, granted, I was a kid, but if you look back, like, that's where it seems like we were maybe moving out of the problems, the racial problems of the 1960s and stuff, and people were getting more of a fair shake and stuff, and you know, that's where the middle class really kind of had a good boom there, you know, to where, because that seems like to be the best idea, is to get people to the middle class, you know, to where they're comfortable and they're, you know, got a good job and they can provide for their family and stuff, you know, and yeah, I just think about that time and just how just different it was, I guess, than it is now, obviously. But I don't really know where I was going with that.
Right. Well, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's what this
kinda-
thing's for. So
Kind
we
of
can
went on a
just kind
tangent
of
there with no end to
there
it.
was no end to it.
Yeah,
Not really working towards anything there.
yeah, but just the idea that we
Kind of reflecting.
maybe we're moving past some of the racial tension of the past, to
Right. And we're now, it seems like we're kind of,
right back in it.
and
if
we've
not-
talked about it before, I think.
Yeah,
But it seems like we're kind of degressing back into
Mm-hmm.
into a place where racial tension and
Mm-hmm.
this idea of oppression and is kind of circling back around, and
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy since we were it seemed like anyways we were kind of kind of trying to move out of that, and then now we're just kind
now
of digging ourselves right back into it,
yeah,
and
which
it's unfortunate because that's not
that's not what
that's
we
not
should be.
that's not the way we should be going.
Yeah,
you know.
we should be past that now. And we've talked about that some of the racial stuff will never go away. Just there's shitty people all over, and they have terrible ideas about the races and stuff like that. But I'd say the majority of people were colorblind in a sense, and the fact that as long as they're good, hardworking people, then they can have just as much as I have, if not more. It's not that it's not a competition in a sense. Everyone has the fair shake, and I wish I had some of
And
the
everybody
numbers.
everybody can make the best of it.
Yeah, because I wish I could have the numbers in front of me to look up like what the numbers were for kids going to colleges from obviously black families, but also Latino families. And the Asian families have been kicking ass for a long time.
Sure.
And that's kind of part of their culture though, is the hard work, and school is very, very important. And that's why you even see at Harvard now that they're only accepting a limited amount of Asian kids now. And I think there was a lawsuit against them for that.
I think so too.
Yeah, because they were doing so well in it that some of the other racial groups didn't get the same.
They get the same ambition numbers.
Yeah. So that was another.
I think that is true. I think
Yeah.
those bigger Ivy League schools kind of got in trouble.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's never really sat well with me.
Yeah, because now they're getting punished just because their whatever their culture did well, and their kids did very well and got into not only the Ivy League schools, probably a lot of the state schools too. I don't know very many Asian kids that didn't go to college. That was what they were around when they were growing up, and that was a priority in their households. So
Right.
yeah,
Man, I remember I was listening to somebody. I don't even remember who it was. But I was listening to somebody the other day, and he was talking about equity versus equality.
oh yeah, yep,
And he worked for some symphony in New York, and they've now made it to where you can't judge somebody that comes into the orchestra
yeah.
based on
On
just
their looks, right?
no, just based on listening to the music that they play.
I feel like I've heard that too. I feel like that was at Juilliard for when they were letting students
maybe it
in.
was Juilliard,
And yeah, they're not supposed to.
but yeah, you can't. So you're not supposed to pick the best oboe player
yeah,
because you need a black person to fill that seat.
Yeah.
So you look for
Yeah.
the best black oboe player instead of the best oboe player overall. Mm-hmm. Which, think if other organizations did that. I mean, the NBA, for example,
yeah,
where it's majority black people,
yeah.
right?
Black players.
But
Yeah.
now, what if that were the case? Then we'd
Yeah.
have. What if we had to have a certain percentage of Asian people
Yep.
or white people play basketball? Well, the game wouldn't be as good.
Yeah.
The quality of the game would go down because it's not the best players playing.
Yeah. Yep. It's,
If I'm watching the NBA, I want to watch the best. I want to watch the best players play.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
racist at all.
Nope. Yeah.
I want to watch the best game.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not gonna be more. It's not gonna be more fun because there's more white people in there
Yeah.
or anything. You know.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. You want to watch the best, and that's what it is. You
And,
know.
and it's so it's. I mean, I don't know. That's why I never really got about that
Yeah.
whole.
That whole idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you brought up the equality versus equity thing, and that made me think of the idea of equality of outcome versus, equality of opportunity versus the equality of outcome.
Right.
And I think equality of outcome or equality of opportunity is the better idea, because if we all get the same opportunities, great. Some people will make more of it than others, you know, and they will work harder and end up higher on the level, higher up the food chain than certain people that don't put in the same effort. But if you have a quality of outcome where we all end up at the same, then you're not going to have any outliers or any people that are willing to go beyond what they thought they were capable of. Because if we're all ending
Right.
up at the same spot, then what's the point of trying harder, you know?
Right. And that ultimately that kills innovation too.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Which
but that's
I think we've talked about before too. Is
Yeah.
you know if there's no if there's no desire to have anything better, then why would we create anything better?
yeah, and I think that's kind of the idea now, is that we're all
Right.
they're trying to have all of us end up at the same spot in a sense, you know, instead of like a meritocracy where the cream rises to the top, you know, and the best people end up in the highest positions because they were willing to work hard and to put in the time and, you know, do the things that a lot of other people don't want to do. And I think if we lose that, then we're really going to be in trouble then.
Yeah, I think we're
you know?
just kind of rooting for mediocrity at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. And, you know, and back to like the American pride thing, like, you know, we're always supposed to be seen as like the front runners, I think, of the world, and kind of we're supposed to lead the way. And I feel like we used to lead by example, and now like, yeah, we're mediocre at best, I would say, you know.
Especially, well, not especially, but in a lot of categories,
Yeah.
I would say that
Yep.
that's true. I mean, even I think the last poll I saw in education numbers, we were way down there,
Yeah,
like in
I don't even know if
the
we're in
20
yeah,
something.
that's what I was
you know?
thinking. The 20s, yeah.
But I don't know, man. It seems so.
Yeah, like we've
So
talked
weird.
about, it seems like we're regressing instead of progressing as we should, and it's just this idea that you need to see everyone and let them live their truth in a sense, and like, I don't know, it's just weird to see, and I can't quite articulate it as well as I'd like to, but it doesn't seem to be solving the problems that a lot of people on that side want the problems to be solved. You know, it just seems to be creating more problems. And, you know, if you don't let people live their truths, then you're a bigot and you're, you know, a hate monger and stuff like that. And I think it's just a very disingenuous argument when it comes to that.
Right.
Because obviously we can all find different things about us that separate us from each other. That's pretty easy to do, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
And-
I mean, I'd say we're a lot more similar than different in a
Yeah.
lot, you know,
yeah.
in most ways.
Yep.
But I mean, there's always something that's going to be a little different about everybody,
Yeah. And that's
and
what's,
that doesn't even, and not even talk about the color of somebody's skin or where they came from or anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just going to be differences.
yeah. But like, you know, like on TikTok, like there's all those videos about, oh, we got to take down the patriarchy, and it's just a ridiculous argument. I think. I mean,
Yeah. Well, you get some people saying that, and then you get some people saying, even girls saying, I wish we could go back to,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
50s times, you know, and
Yeah.
shit like that, which
yeah.
is,
To where that was the thing Jordan Peters talked about, like with
Yeah.
toxic masculinity, like how now being masculine is seen as a negative thing. And granted, there are negative sides to masculinity, but there's
Sure.
also a lot of positives to it. And
yeah. I mean,
You
it's,
know.
I mean, it's been going on since
yeah,
humans
I
were a
think
thing.
it's helped lead us to where we are now. Is then Jordan Peterson talks about that too, like especially with men, like being like the idea of being the noble king or the tyrant, you know, and like how people can go one way or the other. And you know, for men, now granted, you know, men have maybe, I wouldn't say they're on top, because you can't have one without the other. And I hate that idea that people think that we've made all this progress because men were in charge, and it's like, no, not at all, because maybe women didn't have levels of power, but they still were. They were part of it, and
they're still there.
They still brought something to it. Yeah, they, and we talk about history, and that's just how people lived back then. If the bigger and stronger of the species controlled things, like that's hard to do. But if, yet again, for the men, if you have the noble king there, then everyone thrives in a sense, But also if you have the tyrant, then everyone suffers, And, I wish I don't know what I was going to say. I wish that we appreciated men in a sense, because there's a lot of, I think, lost young men now that don't quite know what to do, because people like to tell them that, especially white men, I guess, would say, "Oh, you guys are the problem. It's all because of you that we have all these issues in the country." And it's just, I think it's a bad thing to tell, especially young men and boys coming up, that they're the problem, and they need to basically change everything about themselves, and to dampen down their masculinity in a sense. And,
right.
Because I get it, men are aggressive and they can do terrible things. Yeah. But when a man understands that about himself and he starts integrating his aggression properly, then I think that's where you get the best men, and the ones that are really trying to fight for the betterment of mankind, I would say, And,
right.
It's just a shame that we're going to have a whole generation of boys come up that are told that they're the problem because of their
of their masculinity or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they dampen down,
mm-hmm.
and then there's plenty of women that have come out too, and it's like, where are the strong men?
Yeah. Don't want none of these soy boys.
Now you guys just told us that we were being too masculine.
Yep. Yeah, and you're
now it's like, well, where's the masculinity? And it's like, well, you told us to not have any more.
Yeah. We're supposed to be ineffectual and
right.
weak, I would say, and weak of character, I would think is a good way to put it. And but yet again, and we're just talking. Obviously, we're two guys, so we're talking from the masculine perspective. But yet again, you can't have one without the other. And I'm not saying that women are just there to have babies and stuff. No, women bring so much to the table.
Oh, yeah.
Like I actually think women have helped men along the way to where they've possibly turned tyrants into noble kings, because they help maybe men find I don't say the softer side of themselves in a sense, but since women are more in tune, I guess, with their emotions and stuff, that they can help men along the way kind of maybe become more in tune with their emotions, and to be kinder and gentler sometimes,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know for me, there are a lot of times I don't really think about things before I do them.
Yeah.
So I just do shit.
Yeah.
And sometimes that bites me in the ass, and
mm-hmm.
And sometimes it works out great for me, which is a surprise when that happens. But whenever I'm single now, but whenever I've been with a girl, it makes me think a little bit more before I do shit, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose.
Yeah. And, like we were talking about Yeonmi Park, that is a tremendously strong woman. Like, listening to that, like I said, that woman is 10 times stronger than I am. And I'm not ashamed at all to admit that. Like, that actually makes me feel good about myself. And I can see that and be like, wow, that girl has tremendous strength. And I don't even hold a candle to that,
Right.
And
it's
good to see.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah. And like there's this other woman I've listened to on a podcast, Africa Brooks, or Brooke, I believe, who she was a liberal lefty, and now she's kind of left that side. And she wrote a great open letter to that, against that, basically. And just talking about how when we look at stuff like that in that lens, it really skews the picture sometimes, and people don't look at it as clearly maybe as they should. This open letter, Why I'm Leaving the Cult of Wokeness. And I would suggest you all to read it. Just search Africa Brooke on Google. You can even search open letter and give it a read. I mean, because when I read it, I was like, holy cow, this is what we need right now. Yet again, another strong woman that saw something that she didn't necessarily agree with and has kind of changed her views on it to where she's more for the individual, and not strictly basing everything on her race or her gender. You know, she's more about the individual, in the individual prospering.
Right. Instead of taking
Yeah.
taking the side that she was on. She was on the far left side,
Yeah.
and the woke side, if you will.
Yeah.
And kind of stepping away from that because
Like I was just
man, that's such a weird term too.
the what?
The wokeness.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a different podcast about wokeness specifically.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot we can do about
Yeah.
that. So we're not gonna get super into it right now.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird concept to me.
Yeah, but I'm just going to read this is one of the first paragraphs in that open letter. This is from that. What I'm truly afraid of is existing in a world that forces me to submit to an ideology without question. Otherwise, I'm to be shamed or pressured to shame myself and cast out of the community. Like,
Right.
that's a very poignant statement right there, and that's that's like the first paragraph, and it's
Right.
just it goes on from there, and yeah, it's just I think we should do another podcast on woke culture.
Yeah, we'll definitely do one.
Because there's a few
There's
things I feel about that I would like to say now, but I
got
think
some
it'd be better.
feelings about
yeah,
that.
Yeah, but the fact that we're wiping away the individual they want to say for the betterment of certain communities, and I think then people fall into the groupthink echo chamber, and then they have no autonomy for themselves because they have to fit into the narrative of what side they're on. And I think they give up a lot more than they realize when they do that.
Yeah.
And that's, I wouldn't say that's where the problem started now with all that, who knows where the problem started. And, because 2008 and 2012, we elected a black president. Like, I thought that was such a good sign for the country. And if you don't agree with his politics, that's fine. But just the step of electing a black man for president, I thought was tremendous.
Right.
And then, what came with Trump, everyone has their own opinion. We don't have to get into that. But I kind of think that that's where some of the wokeism started, too, was with the outrage to Trump, and how he affected people. And, yet again, Yeonmi Park brought him up in that talk about how he was one that actually stood up to China, because no president really has ever stood up to China and said,
Right.
"Hey, what's going on here?" Why?
Right, because they are big and they're
Yeah, they're a huge economy now, and especially coming back to the NBA, like nobody ever talks about it, because there's a group in China that is basically being wiped out by the Chinese regime. I think they're the Uyghurs or something, but basically they are treated as second-class citizens in China.
right.
Yeah. And how nobody ever talks about that because the NBA or China is such a big market for the NBA, and they get tremendous amounts of money from them. And same with like Hollywood. Like there's a lot of different Chinese companies that produce movies and stuff or help produce movies. And nobody ever talks about the atrocities that are going on in China against this certain the Uyghurs from China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Uyghurs.
Yeah. But yeah, she was one to speak up against Trump, and against China, and that's what she liked, because she said that China basically keeps North Korea afloat because they're kind of like a border between the West and China. They have that great
That
totalitarian, socialist
they got
state
the geography is between
it's a nice
their
border
kinda-
between them.
natural border. Yeah.
Yep. But then, she was even talking about that there's racism against the Koreans in China, and that she had a really they're ethnically Korean, but they were born in China or something, and people know automatically by how they speak, and they get treated differently because they're seen as not full Chinese. Yeah. And it's interesting, and what was it, Hong Kong that was having a protest last year about giving more individual freedoms, and that
That
basically
backfired.
got shut down. They wiped
the
that out
army
real
came
quick.
out and
Yep.
arresting people and throwing them in camps, throwing them in jail. A bunch of people died.
Yeah.
Sad deal.
Yep. Yeah, especially, yet again back to our freedoms here that we take for granted, and we look at that, and those people they're literally dying to try to have freedom for the individual, and they're getting wiped out because of it, because, China's a big market, and I hate to say if there was ever another war, it'd probably be between the U.S. and China, or maybe more specifically like the Western China. But
Right. Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
probably Russia and China would probably
yeah,
team up.
team
and
up. Yeah,
That would be my guess, anyways.
yeah.
I mean,
yeah. If we were,
who knows?
and hopefully it doesn't come to that,
No.
you know. But China has so much history too. Like I don't think you're ever going to change it in a sense. But
No, I don't think so either. One of the
yeah,
older current
yeah,
going on, societies.
yeah. But I think a lot of their current stuff started with Mao, I believe, to where they went more straight communist. I wish
Well,
I should
yeah.
look that up more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't just spout stuff.
Well, whatever.
I know when Mao went into
We're just
power,
talking.
a lot of people, a lot of people died in China.
Oh, fuck yeah, they did. But, well, anyways, yeah, we'll do better next time. I don't know.
Yeah,
This one was all right.
this one was all right.
We're just
Yeah, we're a
talking.
little all over the place. Yeah, and
A little all over the place. But
yeah, we didn't
I guess-
necessarily have a topic coming
No.
into mind, and we just kind of spitballed before we recorded about what we wanted to talk
Yeah.
about.
But,
So,
you have a podcast with your daughter going on.
yeah,
Talk about that for a sec.
yeah, it's How to Be a Kid. It's me and my daughter Penny. We just do episode every once in a while. They're only about 10 minutes long. They're on YouTube right now. And yeah, it's just we talk about what it's like being a kid.
Yeah,
And,
they're real fun.
yeah, she'll
Real-
ask me
real cute.
questions,
Yeah.
some hard-hitting questions, honestly. Like last time, she wanted to ask about when I got arrested, and I was like, I don't want to talk about that. But I told her we would do it on the next one. So.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, which is something we do for fun. And honestly, she was the one, like, because when I got a microphone, we were just kind of messing around, and she was like, oh, I want to do this. And it was, yeah, all her idea, and it's pretty cool to see her,
Yeah.
her creativity come out and her excitement for it, you know. And yeah, they're only about 10 minutes long, and she just asks a few questions. I'll ask her a few questions, and yeah, it's pretty fun, actually.
Yeah, it's real cute, real cute.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
and it's called How to Be a Kid.
Yeah.
So look for that too on YouTube.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah. Yeah.
And one microphone was that again?
Huh?
What microphone?
Yeah. One microphone.
Well, which one?
Oh, toner mic.
Toner.
That's right.
Yeah, toner mics.
So when Toner hears this, hey, give us a.
You got a couple podcasts going with
yeah,
toner microphones.
that's true. Toner officially licensed podcast. No, I shouldn't say that.
Don't say that.
Yeah, that's not true.
No, we're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, we'll get in trouble for that. No, they do
Canceled.
not officially license us, but we do like their microphones. They're
Yeah,
solid
they work pretty
microphones.
good for
Yeah,
cheap. Pretty cheap online.
you get the
Or
job done, huh?
inexpensive. I shouldn't say cheap. If
Yeah.
we're talking about them.
Yeah, for
Inexpensive.
trying to get a sponsorship.
Yeah, there we
right?
go.
There you go. All right, cool.
Well, cool. Well, we'll be back after Christmas. The next Thursday is Christmas Eve. The day before Christmas Eve. Thursday after is the day before New Year's. So we'll try to get something going before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But everybody have a safe Merry Christmas or Happy Holiday or whatever you guys celebrate.
Yeah.
Just make sure to be safe. Everybody, this is kind of a time of year people drink a lot and drive around. So
Yeah.
make sure to be careful.
Yeah. Be
If you're
safe
out in the
there,
streets,
you know.
getting last minute gifts and stuff.
Yep.
Hope you all have a good time with your families. Families or friends or however
However you
situation sits. I'll be probably just hanging out here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all
My
right,
family's far away.
though. Yeah.
Pretty far away.
Yeah.
Not terribly far, but far enough that I don't make the drive up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, hope you all have a good holiday, and we'll try to pop in before the new year. Take care, everybody.